But it's great to have you. It's kind of got to that point where what do the numbers mean? We've done it too many times, so it's good to see you this week. If you're joining us, and yeah, James and I, if you've not come before, we're just exploring as honestly, as authentically as we can. Hopefully without shame, hopefully without that kind of feeling of what we should be saying or what the right answers are, or that we know best. Exploring our faith and our experiences with it.
Absolutely.
So, James, have you got anything? We were kind of talking before, and we had nothing pressing, did we, James?
No.
Or we wanted to lead on from, and we've had a week off. So, yeah, where are you at, James?
Well, I was thinking back really to when we first started. We had a little bit of a phase where we had a word that just kind of and went from there. And the word that kind of came to me this week was enough. And that it's got a lot of connotations in enough, and certainly in my faith, there's been one of the big things has been that God is enough, and that there's sufficient, that there's like, I don't need to go searching or seeking or finding or like driving myself onwards to like get any more. We're satisfied, like the whole being satisfied in God and satisfied in Him, and I was thinking a bit about that and how just a bit of a reflection. I work in retail, and knowing that I have a lot of customers who come in and they're like, need to get the latest thing or need to do this or that or the other, and just coming out of lockdown, and it's been basically a week and a half of the first week was so busy, and I mean, coupled with the fact that it was Easter break, so I think a lot of people were free and were available, and just this sort of overwhelming sense of, I don't need that. I don't have that drive in me to have the latest device, to have the latest clothing, to have to be keeping up with any trends or anything, and just very comfortable in myself. And I think that that's something that, hasn't always been there. I haven't, the retail side of things, it's never been something that I've been drawn to anyway. But the sense of not being content inside and discontent or like needing or in need or desiring I've certainly familiar with that, and this sense of enough is quite a profound feeling of, oh, I don't need to keep grappling for the next thing or grasping for the next level. That's sort of my reflection for this evening.
Yeah, and I really feel that kind of sense of kind of settling sense, isn't it? Of in like your body can breathe, you're grounded in your body. I'm enough as I am, and I'm enough in this moment. Really powerful, and very different from where I'm feeling at the moment, James. I have to say, and in my head, I wasn't linking it to retail. I was linking it to. I always think of donuts. So like comfort, some sort of way we comfort ourselves. And it's kind of linked to eating, isn't it? That do we feel like we've had enough? Do we feel like
satisfied? Yeah, that's
satisfied in some way, and things like donuts just kind of give that satisfy hit, comfort hit. And I think it's similar with a lot of these things that we chase, and kind of getting the new thing is kind of like getting another donut that satisfies for a bit, but then and I feel like I'm stuffing my face with donuts at the moment.
Right.
Where I'm at.
You don't feel enough, that sense of enough.
Yeah. And it is I know there's a variety of things that are happening happening in me. And in a sense, I don't want to. I think there is a survival mechanism in that. There's a way that we get on with life and we get through life for a time. Eating donuts for me, but yeah, but I do feel that discontent. I think that like, oh, what, and it is really linked to that idea of, am I enough? Am I enough in this world? Am I enough in this? I don't know, workplace or relationship? Like, it's a really big thing, and it drives a lot of behavior as well.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's it, isn't it? Is that it's kind of it's sort of kind of linked and seeping into every element of our lives, isn't it? And that's what you're experiencing at the moment. So is it all in all of the areas of your life that it's sort of manifesting, or is it?
Yeah, it's in a few, I think, and there's but there are areas. I think at the moment, it's not always so, but at the moment with my kids, with my family, at the moment, that's an area where it's like, and I've just had a lovely holiday with them. So kind of that's all part of it as well. That, yeah. So yeah. And then it's kind of like the agony almost of wanting to be back in that place, kind of, and knowing what it is to be there while being in another situation where you don't feel it.
Where it's sort of like you've experienced that being settled and being comfortable, and then moving to a place of, oh, hang on, this isn't the same. This isn't quite what I was, where I was.
Yeah, and longing for that again, I guess, kind of, and recognizing the real difference, and recognizing how things get dragged in back to family and things. So I'm interested, James. How for you does that relate with your faith? Where does that come in?
So I think for me it comes. It's almost like a direct relationship to my faith. So I suppose sort of growing up and whatnot, I was always feeling like, I need to try harder or work harder or do something different or be something different or be, trying to meet expectations all the time. And that certainly characterized a lot of what I've been through therapy and that sort of stuff. And again, what I've subsequently managed to put down, and I guess it comes back to when we touched on this a bit in a previous episode. Guess what, called an episode? Previous session where we talked a little bit about being and doing, and that being like a real sort of centerpiece of where, like, I guess some of my discomfort and some of my sort of like unhappiness has come from in life, has been where I've felt like I need to do more. I need to drive forwards. I need to. I'm not quite there. I'm not like meeting this person's or that person's expectations, and sometimes it's my own perceived expectations of what their expectations are, as well as like other stuff that is put on me. And I still really struggle with that. That's still like a really big thing. But when I think of faith and I think of God particularly, it's that I don't feel that expectation, and when I do, it's because I know that I've put it there. I know that it's something. It's like either a hangover for me being in institutional religion, or a kind of a preconception or a misunderstanding that what I understand of God is that God is happy and pleased with me and content with me, and that means I don't need to do anything. We're okay. we're all right. He's all right with me. I'm all right with him, and or her. Like whatever. Yeah, whatever way we choose to define God. And I think that changes for me from day to day. But certainly in like the here and now, I just realized that what one of the big things that coming to faith did for me was kind of gave me a foundation for all of that. Like I didn't go into therapy until after I'd come to faith. I didn't like explore that side of things, or like the psychological side of things, as well as like the spiritual side of things, and until after I'd come to faith, even though I was brought up in a Christian household. And so like the idea that there's an all-powerful being that is content with who I am and doesn't need me to be different, that any changes they're going to enact and they're going to like take part in, so it's not going to be on me, it's not like solely my responsibility to make this okay, is really empowering, really freeing, and really really healthy from the point of view of like, then that foundation is there, and that anything in my past where there's been negative connotations with expectation, I can kind of go, well, I can put that over there into that section and not worry about it so much, because actually this guy says I'm okay. and that really carries quite a lot of weight for me. But yeah, I, as I say, old habits die hard, and I do still get things tumbling in on me, and it's like a combination of like poor boundary setting on my part, and like still improving on that. Also like working under a fixed mindset, so like an idea of success and failure being isolated as opposed to like on a spectrum. And it being more like a progression towards success, as opposed to like either failing or succeeding. So that enough is, there's a big, I think just the word on its own, again, it's like acceptance, isn't it? It holds quite a lot of weight for me. It holds quite a lot of reverence, and it's quite a sacred word, I suppose, particularly when I think of it in this context.
Yeah, it's a word that, there's a way of saying it, like enough. Like,
enough. Yeah, that's it.
That's,
it depends on the inflection, right?
It does, yeah. And there is that, I guess, with a lot of these things, there's that kind of inflection, as you say, that just spins it suddenly, and suddenly it's not about being enough. It's about being too much, maybe, or it's about, and suddenly things get inflected. But I really feel that all that it's holding, that kind of sacredness that word is holding, of real substance there in that hold, kind of. And I guess that substance is us, in a sense. Like, there's a sense that word is holding us. It feels like that. And then I really got how easy it is to switch, and a bit of guarding as well that needs happening, but also that it with the boundaries and our mindset, but how things do switch a bit in that. And so what? And actually, I guess what I haven't said yet is that it's really freeing for me to hear. Maybe this is the conversation I needed to hear at this point, James. Like, it's like, I can drop some of those expectations, and I can, that's really lovely, and I can feel it almost like
it, like the weight
dissolving, the weight coming off, and like dissolving things. And it is such a hard thing and such a powerful thing, I think, to grasp, that all these words of acceptance, we've talked about surrender, haven't we? We've talked about being enough, that such a powerful thing once we when we're able to step into them, or when we're able to hold them or be held by them, because they do. And I do think, it's at that point that we're going to transform the most. It's not when we're rejecting ourselves that we transform the most. It's not when we try to be enough that we transform the most. It's when we're already enough. And I think that is for me, one of the hallmarks of my faith. Faith in that kind of paradox, or that logic, that when I give up trying to change, then I'm most changed and most transformed.
Most malleable and changeable.
And something, it's just so powerful. I don't know if I want to say it's power unleashed from within, or power that comes in, but it's just or both, or everything, but it's just such a powerful switch that happens, and suddenly everything is possible, or a lot of new possibilities emerge, and new hope emerges, a new strength within emerges to then set the boundaries, and to then it's at that point, when things start to change, I think.
I can really relate to that, and the almost like when you're in that place of, I guess it's like an openness, isn't it? It's like a stillness and an openness, and we don't really have the right words. All of these words kind of give a glimpse of it, but they don't quite capture it. But then everything seems sort of possible. And when I start to consider things like, why suffering, and why this and that, and like all the really, really tough questions, they just don't really matter. It just it's kind of like they are there. Okay, I acknowledge it, but it's also they're not the important thing. It's almost like they're quieter. They're more at the edge, and they're more like I don't know, because I hesitate to say that they don't matter, because I do think they do, but they pale in importance in comparison with what is real, which is that moment, is that sort of experience, I suppose. Yeah.
It feels almost like that questioning, and or maybe one side of that questioning, or one experience of that questioning, belongs to this way of chasing, or way of kind of belongs in that arena where we don't feel enough, and it's got that edge to it of and I guess it's the edge, and this can be a very painful edge of God doesn't love me as I am. And so it's kind of in that place of not. But when I think, I'm not against apologetics and the and that, although it can be misused, but I think often when we have these questions, it's actually that question of, does God love me, or that emotional question that is at the heart of it, rather than all the intellectual questions where we go around in circles. And it feels like when you answer that question, or when that question gets touched somehow, and welcomed and held as it is, and when we experience that enoughness in the midst of the pain, but that we are still somehow beloved, then that changes things. That changes the significance and the importance of the question.
Yeah, it gives us more. I don't know. I can't even think of the words, but it does just kind of, it sits better, doesn't it? Just it's like the when it's right, you just like, oh, okay, this is what kind of what we're made for, kind of where I'm supposed to be. And when the I guess like there was a big part of me when when I first came to faith that kind of strove for those moments and that feeling. And I guess as I've kind of grown up a little bit, that it just the realization that it is like it does they happen, it happens, but it kind of it can't it's not based on me like trying really hard to seek it out. It's not based on any of that. It's much more about letting go. It's much more about not worrying too much about it happening or not happening, and just going with, well, okay, you know, live life and love people and keep loving as much as you can, but knowing that it's based on something that's not just an idea, it's not just a concept, that there is something real behind it all. I don't know, I kind of drifted a bit there. Don't really know where I was going.
Where I was with you, James,
Yeah.
Was it sounded like almost that what was I going to say? Oh, now I've lost it. That something about being okay wherever we're at.
Yeah.
And I guess still we're enough, and I guess we can get into these kind of spiritual levels or hierarchies and think, oh, something's gone wrong, we're not enough of this, and these are new expectations, and actually real faith, I think, is just is then accepting and embracing that, you know, we're enough as we are in the realities where we are. You know, where I started was, you know, I'm enough where I am, even though I'm eating donuts and feeling like I need it. Like there's an enoughness even in that. And that enoughness can melt that need, can melt that kind of inner hunger and feeling like an emptiness and feeling like I'm not enough. But also it's there even so.
Even when we're not aware of it, type thing. Even when we're not aware that.
That I guess I guess that I'd say that we're still beloved. We're still from eternity beloved by infinitely so, and that somehow, you know, because we can get into this game, this kind of spiritual game of kind of, oh yeah, I'm starting to see all these ways that I do things, and you know, we get into all these sins that I do, or you know, and we can start become proud of that, and then we suddenly
doing or not doing,
and we can, you know, we can get glad that we're getting all this insight, and then we can get to a point of kind of dismay, I think, that actually we realize these don't shift.
No.
I thought now I've got insight, I'll be able to get rid of them all, and you know, years later we realize we're just the same. But that we're enough in all that, I think, is the real profound thing of faith, that we're, you know, there are the moments like you were saying, and there are the moments of real ecstasy and feelings of transcendence. And there can be real prolonged times of where you're in, which, or where it sounds like you're in, of feeling like that enoughness and being able to see it and feeling like okay in yourself, and will also still have the same hurts and the same tendencies. And there's something really profound, I think, in that enoughness that embraces all of that. Yeah, did that make sense? I don't know if that was what you were saying or not, actually.
No, that totally captures it, because it's like, I guess the enough is part of God. It's part of like the wider, the larger, the greater sort of like conscious that is permanent, that's always there, the sort of like ever present, if you like. And we are sometimes aware of it, and when we are, it's like, oh, what a relief. And then sometimes not aware of it, but it doesn't mean God's gone anywhere. It's still there. And it's sort of like just coming back to that. And yeah,
I love that. Just quickly, I love that the enough is part of God. That's so powerful and so hopeful.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that sort of captures it really. Like, it's not something that's coming from us. And so when we are feeling weak and feeling like fragile, feeling like donutty or whatever it is, that God is still enough. That it's part of God. It's part of, like, at least that is for me. Like, I think, I suppose that we've all got different ways of experiencing faith, but what I've found is that when I've read a few different accounts and a few different articles or like books or things like this, and I don't do very well at this, particularly when it comes to Christian literature. I'm a reluctant theologian, but the stuff that I really connect with is the stuff that talks about those profound moments of like connection, and and I think it's just nice to know that I'm not mad. I think in those moments, going, oh, okay, I'm not insane. That is actually possible, and people do feel that, to experience that. So.
Yeah, it's almost something about others witnessing to the reality of those, or to the that it is possible and it happens, and therefore it's happened to you as well.
Yeah.
You're part of that.
Yeah.
Happening.
Yeah. It's permissible.
Yeah. I was struck by one other thing when you were talking, was this phrase, God is enough. It kind of also jars with me. Like, there's a deep settling into it, and there's also this jarring of, are you trying to cut me off from something? I think I think it can become just have faith and it'll be okay.
Oh, I see.
Like, God's enough. He'll deal with everything, and that just cuts us off from all the stuff going on, and kind of tries to jump over it and settle everything, and then everything will be okay, and we can be
a false settling or a false calm over things where it's not. It isn't actually okay. Yeah.
And it's actually it limits this enoughness, doesn't it? Because it's actually not enough. God's not enough to handle what's actually going on somehow, or this enoughness can't embrace the pain and the doubting and all that, like, and I think so I think there is subtle, and it can switch, and it can be, I don't know, it can be used badly, I think, as well, and also be used by us badly as a kind of like a way to stuff everything and everything, and feel okay about it, like a just
it all down, without acknowledging that. So I agree with you. It's really important for us to acknowledge when we're not okay and we're not feeling great, and not like try and force ourselves into going, but it's fine because God is enough. I think that's like a route to a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. And it's not terribly healthy, and it can mean you just ignore all the problems around you. So definitely not advised spiritual advice.
But also I'm aware that you said about the acknowledging the pain and that, but it's all like, it's acknowledging everything, isn't it? That because you were just talking about acknowledging the real moments of intimacy, of touching, of presence, like I don't know. There's something really, really crucial about that acknowledgement. I think of the whole spectrum, but that we can quickly bypass. I think in many ways.
Yeah, and it's part of our, like, I suppose our need to know what's next, and our need to know where we're going, or what's happening, or how we fit, or something like, or I guess it's like our sense of time. You know, well, okay, yeah, that's fine for right now, but what about when blah blah blah, or this, or what if, you know? And I think that again, it's hard, isn't it? Because we are so aware, and more so now probably than ever, of time, and that of the impact of time on our lives and on the lives of others, that it is hard to take a moment and just like go, well, you know, you like take 5 minutes to go for a wee or whatever. It's also okay to take 5 minutes to just stop for a second, to not, and to, you know, even if there's a lot going on around you, that and it is really, really difficult. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I suppose it's sort of saying, like, to take a minute to be quiet or something, or is quite healthy. I do believe that, but I don't think that's what I was trying to say. I don't really know where I was going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost
A little bit wiggly.
It doesn't feel like taking a moment to be quiet is quite it. It's like taking like taking a moment, or it's like cherishing, or kind of valuing enough what's going on in this moment, that we acknowledge it as it is.
Yeah.
It feels. I don't know if that's what you were going on. That's where you're getting to.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the enoughness, living in the enoughness, then draws us into the present moment, or kind of refocuses us on the present moment. And then we acknowledge what's ever going on in that present moment, outside of us and inside. And
it kind of feeds into itself. So when you recognize the enough, you go, oh, I'm kind of present in the moment. And when you do take a moment to be present, you realize the enough is there.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a bit sort of healthy feedback on it. And I suppose I think I like it, because it kind of, the whole mindfulness movement, and like and yoga and all of this sort of stuff, sort of makes me think of that a little bit. But when I'm doing yoga, I don't get that at all. But if I do just sit quietly and go, let's take a deep breath and let's just have a think, and I'm like, oh, okay, actually enough. Yeah, this is enough. This is okay. However much chaos I've been through in the day, or whatever's happened in the day, or that chaos that's going on in my mind, which is frequent. It's sort of, it does become more in focus, or in perspective. Yeah.
James, I think we're coming to the end. I really love how you've kind of shared, just in snippets, those moments of faith, I would say, or those moments, of just really profound, and really, I've loved it for me, where I was at the beginning, and kind of, again, you're witnessing to, I can be enough where I am, that's really, really powerful for me. So thank you, James. Have you got anything you'd like to finish with?
No, I can't think of anything else that I wanted to add. I think that's enough.
That's enough. Great. Okay, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next week. Take
See you
care,
soon.
guys.